Hello everyone, today I'm going to introduce and elaborate what our video is about and what the factor and the effects are. So let's go. First and foremost, our topic is the ignorance of education among Africans. Regarding the surveys and the research, we can easily find that the lack of resources, lack of facilities, and also unqualified teachers have brought this severe problem to the people who live in Africa. As a result, this severe problem has already made people, especially students, struggling from that issue. Hence, our first question is, what are the approach of Africa to education? According to Zola Pahania, who is high school principal, all the efforts have been done to bridge the gap between previous disadvantaged and advantaged school. According to Jenny Captain, who is a teacher in secondary school, had clarified that they don't teach hard skills such as curriculum. In addition, the condition of a learning place has become worse due to the small and overcrowded classroom. The reason behind this is most of the students come from poor areas and don't have the chance to get a better education system. On the other hand, there is an Aslam public school which is South African college schools, and the education fees are very high and expensive. According to the student, who is Sheila Longi, said that most of the students are very high class and come from a rich family. Besides, according to the SSCS headmaster, who is Campbell, said that the education system in Africa will be improved soon. If not, half of the millions of students will be uneducated, and finally, the resource in Africa will not reach full employment. Nowadays, the university challenge are increasing among the people, especially students in Africa. According to Prof. Cran Soudin, who comes from UCT Deputy Vice Chancellor, they mentioned that the gap between good and weak university is quite significant. Besides, the disparity between the poor students and rich students are quite big. The percentage that rich students to achieve their goals is around 80%, but for the poor students is only around 40 until 50%. Hence, what is the factor and the effect, and also how we can overcome this problem?
Getting an education is not just a fundamental human right, it is pivotal to increasing employment and income opportunities. It is fundamental to breaking the cycle of poverty. Education is the key to unlocking the golden door of freedom for all in Africa. It is the bedrock of social and economic development. Getting an education is such a very beneficial thing to do. So let's hear of what the students think of the importance of getting education.
My first question is that why do you think education is important for you?
I think education is important because it is a weapon to remove poverty from the world.
Why is education important? For me, education is important because if we will become elder, anyone can fool us, and without education we can't get jobs.
Why is education important?
Like Einstein was a person who means in school they were not allowing him to study, but then also his mother do not give up and study him, so he studied and became a scientist. Like that we can also study and become some person who can do something in our life.
Education is crucial as it is an investment in human capital. This yields tremendous benefits at many levels and spheres. It benefits the individual, family, community, and nation. Education is a sustainable means to alleviate poverty and bring lasting change. Consequently, to effect permanent change, any effort to bring lasting change must include education in one way or the other.
So providing quality education to children reflects the fact that every child is entitled to fundamental human rights and is to be treated with dignity. So childhood education gives young people a chance to develop social awareness and is key to cross-cultural understanding. So when children are taught are taught with social studies, geography, and history to have a better understanding of what life is like for other people. This understanding is the first step in conflict resolution on a continent with many nations and cultures.
Millions of children embroiled in forgotten emergencies such as in the Central African Republic, Nigeria, and South Sudan have had their education decimated or jeopardized. Many are drawn into fighting as soldiers or forced to support armed groups. Weak government monitoring mechanism, lack of zero discrimination policies, and lack of accountability for children who drop out of education are among the factors contributing to government's failure to ensure the right to quality education for children who have traditionally ended discrimination. In the past decade, armed forces, non-state armed groups, and also international peacekeeping forces have used schools and other institutions for military purposes. Armed forces have turned school grounds into battlegrounds, taking over educational institutions for military purpose. Schools have been used as barracks, logistic bases, headquarters, weapon storage, interrogation center, and recruitment ground in the majority of conflict in recent years. Students and teachers have been displaced entirely or, in some cases, forced to try to study with armed men present in their school, potentially endangering their lives in safety as well as their right to education. Even where schools are vacant at the time, the damage to school infrastructure from looting and attacks by opposing forces, as well as the ongoing presence of troops when schools could reopen, may prevent children from resuming their education. Human Rights Watch found that military use of schools hinder children access to education and causes lower school enrollment. Based on interviews in 2014 and 2015, 101 children are associated or formerly associated with armed forces and groups from Dinka, Nuer, and Shilluk tribes. Some of the children were as young as 13 years of age, but most of them were between 15 and 17 years old. In South Sudan, thousands of children have fought in recent conflict and tens of thousands remain at risk of recruitment. Neither government nor opposition leaders have ended the widespread recruitment and use of child soldiers despite promising to do so. By that, we are going to explain the effect towards Africans on the ignorance of education.
So in this video, I would like to explain more about the effect of ignorance education among Africans.
Lack of education has serious effect on everyone, not only people who are undereducated. People who lack education have trouble getting ahead in life, have worse health, and are poorer than the well-educated. Major effects of lack of education include poor health, lack of a voice, shorter lifespan, unemployment, exploitation, and gender inequality. Across the world, 264.3 million school children, adolescents, and youth are not in school. We are getting more of these children into school, but there's still a long way to go. These children who are undereducated will likely suffer from long-term side effects that may limit their quality of life. There are two major effects of lack of education that cause real worry to us all. The first, unemployed. Everywhere in the world, jobs are given out of the most qualified people. Educational certificates are one major way in which unemployers choose between job applicants. If you don't have that high school diploma or university degree, chances are you will drop to the bottom of the pile. Based from the OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, it found that across all OECD nations, 83% of people with university degree are employed. 74% of people with upper secondary or non-university post-secondary education are unemployed. 56% of people with an upper secondary education are unemployed. Second, a break on economic growth. Countries that have a more educated population will have more sustainable economic growth over the long term than those with a less educated population. This is particularly evident now that we live in a globalized world. Nations are competing against each other for economic dominance. If a nation is more educated, the nation's productivity is higher and its workers are more innovative. The nation attracts higher paying jobs in growth industries. By contrast, nations that are poorer have attract lower paying industries such as manufacturing, while many third world countries can grow their economies rapidly by lowering labor standards and attracting industry. There is a cap on this growth. That's why China is investing so heavily in tech and education. They know that if they want to continue to grow at a rapid rate, they need to transition to the high-paying industries of the future.
Early discussion, we talk about the factor and effect, and now I will talk about how to improve the ignorance of education amongst Africans. Firstly, create awareness among the people on the importance of education. Government can spread the awareness through the social media, television, radio, and the most important thing, government can create the mobile unit to move around the selecting area, like having a talk about the importance of education, because education can improve their literacy, their livelihood, and the most thing can improve their standard of living. Other than that, we set up more infrastructure. As we know, in Africa, the lack of infrastructure. Government should build more schools or modify the existing building so that the students can study without any problem. Last but not least, increase numbers of teaching personnel. In the short term, they can take volunteers from outside or from the other country to spread the education amongst the Africans. For the long term, government should encourage local people to take up the professional teaching so that they can keep their own culture without worry about the outsiders spreading others' culture to their young generation.